Hello, Scooby Doo fans. Welcome to my Season 2, Episode 8 review of Scooby Doo Where Are You? That's right, we finally reached the conclusion of Season 2 and Scooby Doo Where Are You, the series as a whole. After 4 years, we finally reach the end game of Scooby Doo Where Are You? And I'm so excited. Hopefully, the other shows will not take as long to finish, but now we will finally conclude Scooby Doo Where Are You? And move on to Scooby-Doo's other shows. Not that this hasn't been fun. I've enjoyed reviewing Scooby-Doo Where Are You very much. I've loved revisiting the show. It's my favorite show of the series. I always love it. And I'll get into more about that in the outro when I give my final thoughts in the episode. But last time I continued my 2023 summer special with my review of Season 2, Episode 7 of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? And I gave a pretty below average review of it. I didn't really think it was that good of an episode. I thought it was pretty shit. It was not a great episode last time, so it really stunk. So today, of course, I will be covering Season 2, Episode 8 of Scooby Doo Where Are You? Titled Don't Fool with the Phantom, which was released on October 31st, 1970. Yes, you heard that right. This episode released in Halloween of 1970. How fucking cool is that? If I was a kid in 1970 and I woke up on Halloween to see that a new Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode was airing, I'd be the happiest kid in the world. That'd be my favorite day ever. Like, that'd be a memory I would never forget. So I want to know if any of my Scooby-Doo fans have ever did any of you guys see this episode on Halloween of 1970? Because this is the first Scooby-Doo episode that was released on Halloween. And what a good way to send off Scooby-Doo Where Are You on Halloween. I think it was a perfect day to end the series. So please, if you have, I would very much love to hear it, because I'm jealous of any of you kids from 1970 who got to witness this episode on Halloween. It must have been a pleasant time. The short synopsis of the episode is Fred, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby-Doo are all contestants on the Johnny Sands dance game show. The TV show is interrupted by a figure identified as the Wax Phantom. The gang trails the Phantom back to the local wax museum, hoping to find clues and solve the mystery of the Wax Phantom before he causes any more trouble. So as per usual, I will be watching this episode on the Scooby-Doo Where Are You complete series box set for any of my newcomers who have not watched, these episode reviews. I brought this box set on every Scooby-Doo Where Are You review that I made from, I want to say, episode 14 onwards of last season. That's probably when I had that. But this has every single episode of the first 2 seasons. It has the 3rd season of the Scooby-Doo show. And it has a lot of good special features, which I will be covering today on my review. As, since this is the final review of Scooby-Doo Where Are You, I want to cover them. I will be watching the Season 3 episodes of the Scooby-Doo show on here, but I didn't want to save the special features on that disc for another review, because there was only one disc that had special features, and it was just a documentary, and that was 15 to 20 minutes. And some trailers for some DVDs. So I figured I'd just include it with all the rest of the special features and just go into the goodies of the complete series box set and, what I like and dislike about it after I give my, after I go through the episode and review it. But I believe most fans love this episode of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? I've heard this considered to be a great end to the Scooby-Doo Where Are You series and Season 2. People seem to really like this episode and consider it a great finale to Season 2 and the entire Scooby-Doo Where Are You TV show. So is this truly a great finale to Scooby-Doo Where Are You as a whole and Season 2? Do we end on a high note? Does Scooby-Doo Where Are You end on a high note? Or are we going to be ending on a low note? Or are we going to be somewhere in the middle? Well, let's find out, shall we? So let's look at the final episode of Scooby-Doo Where Are You to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of Scooby-Doo Where Are You. The episode begins at the TV station KLMN, where the Johnny Sands dance contest is being held. Fred, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby Doo are all participating in the contest in 2 teams. However, while Shaggy and Scooby are performing their food and dance routine, the lights go out and a giant shapeless figure briefly appears, and it's creepy as shit when the Wax Phantom makes his first appearance, especially with his fucking moan and his glow. There is something about the scene that does bug me, which I'll get onto later when we go on to who's behind the Wax Phantom facade. But once the lights come back on, the station manager, Mr. Stevens, has vanished, and Johnny Sands is found tied up in the back. The gang at first think Johnny Sands is making a publicity stunt and is just faking it for attention. However, Johnny says that it's not a publicity stunt, and he blames the escapade on the Wax Phantom. The gang don't know who that is, but Johnny Sands explains to them that it was a figure created by a crank wax sculptor named Mr. Grisby, who had a grudge against the station after they let him go because his show, I guess, was failing in ratings. So they said, off you go. You're not getting us the money. Even though the station safe has been robbed and Mr. Stevens apparently has been taken hostage, Johnny Sands begs the kids not to call the police because the station has been in financial trouble and they can't take the publicity. However, I understand maybe the financial trouble and the publicity might be too much, but this calls for a police investigation. A man has presumably been kidnapped for God knows what reason. We don't know whether he's alive or not. So, I'm sorry, Johnny, but I think the fucking police should be called regardless of your financial trouble. I don't mean to sound rude, but I think the safety of your station manager is more important than your station's financial trouble and publicity. I think your station manager's safety is much more important. However, the gang oblige and they decide to offer up their services. And Johnny does help them by giving the address of Grisby. So the gang decide to split up, with Scooby, Shaggy, and Velma setting off to go visit the sculptor Grisby at his house, while Freddy and Daphne go off to investigate the local wax museum. So Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby-Doo all go to the house, and they go to talk to Mr. Grisby, and the creepy Mr. Grisby tells Velma that he knows what happened at the TV station thanks to his crystal ball, and cheerfully admits to dabbling in some black magic. He believes that he has indeed brought the Wax Phantom to life, prompting Velma and the others to race over to the museum to warn Freddy and Daphne. There was a lot of creepy shit in Grisby's house. That skeleton at the end that waved at Scooby was creepy as shit. Some of the bird statues, ghost stew that Shaggy found, I think. All very weird and creepy stuff. At the museum, we see the Wax Phantom notices that the mystery machine has driven up with Freddy and Daphne inside. Freddy and Daphne have entered through the open front door that isn't locked, which should clue them in that maybe something is going on. But they decide, hey, it's open, let's just go in, not knowing whether it'll be a trap or not. And they get locked in by the Wax Phantom, because of course they do, it was a trap. And we get a nice cute scene where Fred and Daphne, while, after hearing the lock, after hearing the door lock and Freddy asking what clicked, Daphne gets scared of a statue that falls over her. And it's a nice cute moment of Daphne being scared and holding on to Fred. And it prompts a nice little cute chase scene between Fred, Daphne, and the Wax Phantom, when the Wax Phantom makes his appearance known to Fred and Daphne and chases them, for a tiny bit. It was a good scene. I actually did like it because it was a nice Fred-Daphne bonding moment. There's a lot of great chemistry with Fred and Daphne in this episode. It was a nice cute scene with Daphne being scared and holding on to Fred, and them having a nice mini little cute chase scene with the wax phantom. I enjoyed it.
What clicked?
Yow! It almost had me.
Relax. It's just a wax figure. There's nothing for real.
That's for real.
You know it.
Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby Doo all arrive thanks to the moped that I think is from episode 5 from Decoy for a Dog Napper, which is kind of a nice, cool continuity, as Shaggy did seem to know the gas station attendant in Decoy for a Dog Napper, so I could totally see him being like, hey, can I borrow it for, like, in case if I need it again, or him being like, you can keep it, man, I don't need it anymore. So when they arrive, they realize that the door is locked. Shaggy suggests splitting up, but Velma says, no, let's have Scooby go through a window. He doesn't want to at first, but Velma says, gives him some Scooby snacks. And Shaggy and Scooby go to find the window. And Shaggy, for some weird reason, repeats him saying, let's go find the window, Scoob, twice. I don't know why he says it twice. I'm pretty sure Scooby heard him the first time. It was very weird. It always is weird to hear Shaggy just repeat that when he really didn't need to. Like, we all get it. Yes, he heard you the first time, Shaggy. You don't need to repeat it. He heard you. But they go to Shaggy and Scooby enter through the window and help Velma through it. And they find themselves in the monster display room, which obviously frightens Shaggy and Scooby as they encounter some frightening displays. And Velma tells them that it's all part of the act, but then they flee from a ghost hand and a ghostly laugh, which obviously sounds familiar because it's the Wax Phantom. And Velma now is scared too, so they all run off, and they run into Fred and Daphne, and they all come across an airline ticket on the floor. So the gang split up once again, with Freddy and the girls going one way, and Scooby and Shaggy sticking at the table with, wax food. I don't understand why Shaggy and Scooby don't clue in that it's wax, but they don't. So Freddy and the girls fall through a trapdoor while exploring, the area. While Scooby and Shaggy try snacking on some wax fruit, which is disgusting. I don't know why Shaggy and Scooby thought that was actual food. And this is when the Wax Phantom makes his presence known, as they are interrupted by the Wax Phantom, who catches them after they, take a detour through the topsy-turvy room, which is a nice little display. It's a nice little cool scene of Shaggy and Scooby evading the Wax Phantom. But I don't blame Shaggy and Scooby for being scared shitless, as this Wax Phantom would scare anybody. It's intimidating, scary as fuck. I wouldn't want to be captured by him at all. I wouldn't want this guy catching me at all. Unfortunately, he does capture Shaggy and Scooby, and I feel bad for them because, if I saw myself in that situation, I would shit myself. I'd be very scared of what this man, what this Phantom was going to do to me. And he threatens to turn them into wax creatures, which basically means he's going to kill them, because that much wax would easily kill them. So meanwhile, Freddy and the girls are down in the trapped, room, and they find a secret. They find a satchel full of money in the secret room. And they also find a secret panel that lets them out, because Velma gets angry at the Wax Phantom and stomps her foot. And I find that really funny, because she's like, oh, that Phantom, he makes me so mad. And her anger actually helps them. And it was kind of funny how that happened. It gave Velma a character moment. I very much enjoyed it. That was very entertaining. And they wonder where Shaggy and Scooby are, and Shaggy ends up saying zoinks not too long after that. So they all follow the groans of Shaggy and Scooby. And after the Wax Phantom, as mentioned earlier, threatens to turn them into wax creatures, He places the hapless pair on a conveyor belt that will drop them into a vat of molten wax. Shaggy even critiques how cliche this is, and it's kind of cool that Shaggy calls out this fandom for his cliches. However, it ends up being foiled as Daphne accidentally reverses the belt due to her once again falling in the same manner as in the Caveman episode, where she leans too far forward and thankfully catches the conveyor belt, because had she not, she most likely would have hurt herself. Daphne, what? Like, be mindful of your safety. Like, you're gonna hurt yourself one of these days if you keep leaning out so fucking far over the ledge. Thankfully, she didn't, and she ends up helping Shaggy and Scooby escape. And then a chase scene that ensues where we get our 7th and final musical chase scene performed by Austin Roberts. This is Austin Roberts' final episode, as he will not be returning in any future episodes. We'll get some more music in Scooby Doo, but it'll be performed by different people. And this song is called Pretty Mary Sunlight. Pretty Mary Sunlight is one of the more weaker ones. I know a lot of people love it, and it is a classic. Don't get me wrong. I like the song. The problem is that the song doesn't really fit for a chase scene. It's a song that I can relax to and, enjoy the music of it, but it's not a song that I'm looking for in a Scooby-Doo chase scene. It doesn't balance it out like with the, kind of like the last episode where it balances the lows and the highs of the chase scene. I definitely think this is one of the more weaker chase songs. It's definitely more catchy than 7 Days a Week, so it's not the weakest song, but it's definitely one of the more weaker ones. I still do enjoy the song on its own, but it's definitely not worthy of being played over a chase scene. It just doesn't work. I do like this musical chase scene, though, because we get to see the Wax Phantom, Shaggy, and Scooby all go through all these nice shenanigans, with Shaggy and Scooby doing their best to evade the Wax Phantom, and eventually they successfully do.
I guess they never will believe in. Playing foolish games, inventing fairy tales, and building fantasies that will deceive them. I don't need to look around. I'm in heaven, check out my pretty Mary Sunlight. She's alright with me. Pretty Mary Sunlight, everything I need. Come on.
We're safe now. Boy, are we glad to see you guys.
How did you ever escape?
Like you might say we just let the Wax Phantom use his head.
After they escape from the Wax Phantom, Fred decides it's time to turn the tables on the Phantom and lure him into a trap. So he says that Daphne is going to be behind the door and shut it and lock it when the Phantom goes in. Velma's gonna drop down, gonna be on top of a bunch of crates and drop a crate on top of the Wax Phantom, and Fred's gonna be by the wax shower where he will douse the Wax Phantom in wax and keep him contained. Shaggy and Scooby wonder why he would go to the shower, and of course, this is because Shaggy and Scooby will be the bait and will lure the Phantom throughout the trap. Shaggy and Scooby are very unwittingly act as bait, but they're weird about it because they tell Fred. Fred's like, "You got a better idea?" Once Shaggy and Scooby shuts down, they don't want to do it, and Shaggy, says, "Oh, look over there," and then runs away, and him and Scooby run away, but it doesn't end up doing anything because Shaggy and Scooby still act as the bait. They still lure the Phantom to the trap. So what was the point of tricking Fred, being like, "Hey, look over there," and run away? What was the point of that, Shaggy? Why did you and Scooby do that? There's no reason for you to do that. Just say no, and, they can do the usual, will you do it for a Scooby snack? Or they could put their foot down and say, "No, we're not doing it for a Scooby snack. One of you guys do it." But nope, they still end up acting as bait anyways, despite them, despite them running away from Fred. And they do lure the Phantom to the shower. However, Fred fucks it up because he turns on the wax shower way too early and douses Shaggy, Scooby, and the Wax Phantom in the shower. So you might be thinking, okay, this is a simple screw up. Fred will, help get them out, right? No. He fucking waits until the police arrive to get Shaggy and Scooby out of the wax. Fred, Shaggy and Scooby could have easily died in those minutes. Why would you leave them in wax? They could have easily fucking died. They could have been easily hurt, and instead he's just like, "Oh, I guess we'll wait for the cops to arrive." No! Free Shaggy and Scooby and keep the Phantom contained in the wax. That's what you need to fucking do. But no, Fred's like, "We gotta do this properly. We just gotta, unmask everybody and get them out of the wax in front of the police officer. Even though my friends might be dying in there and might suffocate or something like that. Nope. We're gonna, make a theatrical, unmasking to this police officer. Fred, I know you love unmasking the villain, but Shaggy and Scooby's safety are much more important. Break them out of the wax, and then you can keep the Phantom in the wax. There's no reason to keep Shaggy and Scooby in the wax as well. It was ridiculous. But I do like the final chase scene of all the gang working together to get the Wax Phantom trapped, despite Fred being an idiot and trapping them way too early and leaving his friends to most likely suffocate. But he's lucky that they didn't, because obviously this is a cartoon. But still, that's fucking terrible. Fred, they're your best friends. Get them out of the wax.
What was that?
The Phantom? That's what.
Yeah, you're right. It is the Wax Phantom. Run!
I hope this will hold him. Bombs away!
Bullseye!
Get him over here, Shaggy!
As soon as he uncrates himself, Freddy. He's coming. I hope we're too fast for old Waxy. We must be way ahead of the Phantom. Me and my big mouth.
Lead him through the showers for his wax job, Shaggy! Shag! Scoob! You weren't supposed to be in on this!
So when the police arrive, Fred gets Shaggy and Scooby broken out of their wax prison, and the Wax Phantom is unmasked as Mr. Stevens, the TV station manager. So this causes quite a bit of a dilemma. Now, you mentioned how earlier in the episode I had a bit of a gripe with the beginning of the scene. Well, here's my gripe with it. So, Stevens is a Wax Phantom, right? Obviously, he had to be in the costume. He obviously had to be in the wax for that. However, he was still animated off to the side with the rest of the gang. And obviously, we know it's not a projection because the gang never mentioned it. It's never stated that it was a projection. It was very clear. It was very clear by the scene that there was wax there, so the Wax Phantom was real and physical and was actually there. So how can Mr. Stevens both be by the side of the gang looking at the Wax Phantom when he glows and be in the Wax Phantom costume behind Shaggy and Scooby, and then, turning off the lights and stealing the money and leaving and faking his own kidnapping? It's very weird, and you also have to wonder, where the hell did he get all this wax? Because when Shaggy and Scooby get dosed in wax, they don't get much bigger than they do when they're covered in the wax. But obviously, Stevens does. He must have doused himself with tons of wax. So did he have like a full vat of wax in the back room ready to go and poured it all over himself and then got into it? Because it's obviously not a costume. If it was a costume, he'd still be in it after he'd be broken out of the wax. So it was obviously real wax. So where the fuck did he get all this wax? Did he take wax from the wax museum and take a whole a pint of it or something like that, or a bucket or something, and pour a bunch of wax on him? Very risky shit. It's hot wax. It's like it could easily suffocate him. It could hurt him. He doesn't know. This is a very dangerous getup. Would have been probably easier just to get a costume, but I guess but I do admire his dedication to at least follow through with the plan. But yeah, that's really my gripe with that early scene. It's weird. How could Stevens be in two places at once, and where did he get all this wax at? Where the fuck did he get where did he get this wax from? How the fuck did he survive it? It's weird. It's crazy. But he had embezzled a lot of money from the TV station and was planning to flee to South America, leaving the Mad Grisby to take the blame for both the theft and his disappearance. So that's a pretty good motive. That's pretty unique. That's cool. And so the gang are free to go back on the road, and Shaggy and Scooby have taken a couple souvenirs. And the souvenirs are wax sculptures that of themselves, which is awesome. And Daphne asks them what they're going to do with these wax sculptures of them. Shaggy tells them simple: next time there's a mystery, these wax dummies will take our place instead. And hey, that works and Fred then makes a joke that they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between either one dummy from the other, which obviously doesn't amuse the duo at all. And that's how the episode ends, with Fred giving us a very funny joke of how to tell one pair of dummies from the other. So that's the end of the episode, but hold on to your horses, because we still have special features. That's right, we still got some special features to talk about, so let's get started on those. The first special feature we're going to be talking about is Scooby Doo's Ultimate Fans. This is basically, you meet 3 of Scooby Doo's biggest fans who show off all their most prized and valued memorabilia in their homes. So who are the 3 people that are in it? Well, you have Scott Innes, who's the voice of Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy Doo. In the period between A Pup Named Scooby Doo and What's New Scooby Doo, he played Shaggy and Scooby in 4 directed video movies. He voiced him in the games in the early 2000s. And he also voiced Scrappy in the first live action Scooby Doo movie. So he's a great voice actor. He does well as Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy, and it was cool seeing his get up. He had a lot of cool Scooby Doo stuff. Then you have Brent Cooper and his nephew Alan. Just some random guys, no relation to the Scooby Doo behind the scenes. Just some average Joes. They got a cool collection, a lot of cool shit in there. And then finally, you have Scott Geralds, who's a director and writer. He's worked on a few Scooby Doo stuff: The 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, a pup named Scooby Doo, What's New Scooby Doo. He's worked on. He's also worked on a couple of direct-to-video movies. I think in the early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s. But but I think it was mostly the early 2000s, the What's New era. He helped with that, and he's also helped written some Scooby Doo comic books. So he's a pretty big guy in the Scooby Doo community. And he actually had a cool bathroom. And if I was in that bathroom, I enjoyed taking a shit in there because it'd be like if I had all that Scooby Doo stuff, I would never want to leave the bathroom. I enjoyed every second I'd be in that bathroom. It'd be fun. Then you have Get the Picture: How to Draw Scooby Doo and the Gang. It's pretty self-explanatory. It just shows you how to draw Scooby Doo and the Gang. I'm not really an art guy myself, but if any of you are interested in how to draw Scooby Doo and the Gang, well, here's a tutorial on it. There you go. Then you have Funky Fashion, which is basically a woman just talks about the gang and their outfits, kind of how that reflects their personalities and styles. Not really much there. I guess if you want to hear somebody how she interprets the gang's outfits and styles, then there you go. She even says that Fred's ascot makes him a bit more feminine. I wouldn't say that's true. That it makes him have a feminine side. The ascot makes him manly. That should, I think it fits his persona. Then you have America Loves Scooby Doo, the music video, which is once again very self-explanatory. It's just a music video clip montage of late 90s, early 2000s direct-to-video Scooby Doo with some guys singing about how America loves Scooby Doo. Not really a good song. Personally, don't care for it. Not really that great, to be honest. Then we have Scooby-Doo Street Smarts, which is basically they go on the street and talk to average people, average everyday people, and ask for their thoughts on Scooby-Doo, and, who their favorite member of the gang is, and, their thoughts on the gang, and, Scooby-Doo as a whole. It's kind of cool seeing all these average people talk about Scooby-Doo. It's really, it shows, how much in common you have with these people. It's nice hearing them talk about different aspects of Scooby-Doo, who their favorite member is. I like this special feature. Then you have Take the Scooby-Doo Challenge, which basically gives you, I think, 4 questions, and you basically have to answer them on their own. I only got 1 wrong the first time, but the rest I got pretty good. It gives you 4 choices, and you just have to pick which one is the correct one. If you get it wrong, don't worry. You still get another chance to pick. So I assume you get to pick until you get it right. So if you want to test your Scooby-Doo knowledge on these 4 questions, then I'd say try it out. It's pretty good. Then you have Hanna-Barbera from H to B, which is basically a documentary about the partnership between William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, and the shows created by their animation company, and it contains interviews with the people who knew and worked with them, as well as clips from their shows, including Scooby-Doo. So if you want to know the animation company behind Scooby-Doo, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, and their co-workers, and how it was, then it's pretty cool. I like hearing them, talk about how they would work hard on Scooby-Doo and other shows, how William Hanna and Joseph Barbera really cared about their cartoons, and they acted like kids too around the office. They would break the ice by playing pranks on each other, making it fun, but they also knew, they also worked very hard on their shows and knew when to, be focused. And they would, get their big boy pants on if they had a deadline to reach, and worked as hard as they can. It shows why they have a lot of animation errors at certain points, but hey, I commend them for their hard work, and I personally thank William Hanna and Joseph Barbera for what they've given us. They gave us a great cartoon in Scooby-Doo, and I'll always thank them for that. They did a great job, not just with Scooby-Doo, but their other cartoons. as well. So it was fun listening to people talk about them and learning more about them. And lastly, you just get trailers for 2 shows that aren't Scooby Doo. I think one's Animaniacs, one's Pinky Brain, another one's Batman Beyond, and Justice League Unlimited. And then you get 2 trailers for What's New Scooby Doo, and then a bunch of other Scooby Doo DVDs, which you probably have heard before. But that's basically all that there is. So that's all the special features. As far as my personal favorites, I personally liked Scooby Doo's Big Ultimate Fans. That was a good one. I loved Scooby Doo Street Smarts. I liked the Take the Scooby Doo Challenge. And I loved the Hanna-Barbera from H2B documentary. They were all great shit. Really good. I highly recommend you watch those. The other ones, if you want to watch them, you can go right ahead. They're only about like 2 minutes. Maybe like they go from like 2 to 15 minutes. So they're not long. So if you want to watch the other ones, you can go right ahead. But those are the ones that I recommend out of all the special features. Anyways, on to my final thoughts on the episode. I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 8 of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? 5 stars out of 5. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 episode. It's a perfect finale to the series and Season 2. And to start off with, normally I would start with the negatives, but I actually don't have any negatives for this episode. Shocking, right? Yeah, 2 episodes ago I said it's hard for a Scooby-Doo Wario episode to be perfect, but this one was pretty perfect. It had no flaws that I really had. There was no glaring flaws with this episode. There wasn't even any minor ones that I had. Now, I will say that not everything was strong. Some things ranged from okay to good, but it still was a pretty perfect episode, as there wasn't really anything that made it bad. There was no like flaw that held it back. It was pretty good. Would I say it's the best episode of Scooby-Doo Wario? No, probably not. There's definitely 1 or 2 that I could probably argue are better, but this one is definitely one of the top Scooby-Doo Wario episodes. It is a perfect finale to Scooby-Doo Wario, and I can see why people love this episode. So since I have no negatives for the episode, let's get on to the positives of it. And for starters, we'll start with the gang themselves. So first we have Fred. Fred, I feel, got the best development in this episode. He did a lot of shit in this episode and was really great. Really was probably the most well-rounded character in this episode. So he had his usual thing of being a good leader. You know, he very much forwarded the mystery. He said, we're going to do this, this, and that. This is how we're going to trap the Phantom. This is what we're going to do. He was very much a good leader in this episode. His trap was great. I loved seeing him set up his trap. You know, Fred does set up traps in Scooby-Doo Wario, but not every single episode is like a trap. Sometimes it's just off-the-cuff stuff. And this one didn't actually fail. It's just Fred did it too early and left his best friends in a pile of wax. Easily could suffocate them or burn them, and waited for the cops to break them out of their wax prison. Really ridiculous. But yeah, I liked this trap. I thought it was pretty good. And the communication between him and the rest of the gang between the trap was great. They all were in sync. And he had some funny moments. I liked the joke at the end, and you know, I definitely liked how he responded to being fooled by Shaggy and Scooby when they're like, yeah, look over there, and then they ran away. You know, so he was pretty good in this episode. He had a lot to do, and I liked him in this episode. He was fantastic. Then we have Daphne. Now, Daphne was very lucky in this episode because the one thing I will give to her is that she had great chemistry with Fred. Another aspect of Fred that I liked. Her and Fred were great, especially in the dance contest and in the wax museum where she got scared by the wax figure and jumped into Fred's arms. Fred and Daphne's chemistry and relationship in this episode was great. They were really in sync, and I think that was really what saved Daphne. As had Daphne not had good chemistry with Fred in this episode, I very easily could have seen her as the biggest flaw of this episode because, man, besides her chemistry with Fred, she practically had nothing to do in this episode. And it kind of stinks, but, you know, she had moments with Fred, so I'll give her that. But she's very lucky because otherwise I would have easily considered her a negative and probably considered her just as useless as she was, I think, in the last episode. Then you have Velma. Velma obviously she had some pretty good, funny moments. I very much liked how she got angry at the Wax Phantom for being trapped in there and stomped her foot and found a secret passageway. I think she was a good leader when Fred wasn't around. When she was split up with Shaggy and Scooby, she took charge on her side of things. Was very good. And she did her usual function of helping to piece together the mystery. She took the clues and helped piece together the mystery like she always does. So she was pretty good in this episode. You know, I very much enjoyed her in this episode. She served her basic function, she had funny moments, and she was a great leader when Fred wasn't around. Then finally, we have Shaggy and Scooby Doo, the comedic duo and my favorite characters of the gang. So Shaggy and Scooby were pretty much did their usual selves. They had some funny moments and some entertaining chase scenes, but their humor wasn't the strongest in this episode. And yeah, they were bait for the trap, but I feel like outside of that, they really didn't do much. And I think it was because, like, they just kind of, like, they just really didn't do much in this episode, I felt like. I'm not really sure why. I can't put my finger on what it was, but... And their humor wasn't the strongest, but I will say that they had some funny moments and, had some good chase scenes. So at least they had that going for them. Honestly, like, without those, Shaggy and Scooby could have also, like Daphne, been a negative as well. But thankfully, they had some good chase scenes with the Wax Phantom and had some, funny comedic, jokes in the episode. So I'll give them that. But definitely not their strongest episode by far. I'd say Fred and Velma were the strongest of the group, while Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby were okay. They did enough to be serviceable, but they weren't amazing. This definitely wasn't their best outing, but still not bad. Next, we have the mystery itself. So the mystery was pretty good. You had the mystery of what happened. Why did the Wax Phantom steal money from the TV station and kidnap Roger Stevens as a hostage? What was the goal of that? Why did he do what he did? And we do learn that at the end. And I liked the mystery in this episode. I liked, especially since Roger Stevens seemed to be friendly with the gang, which I'll get onto him later. It felt like a bit of a personal mystery for the gang, as someone's safety was in danger, presumably a TV station manager that they were friendly with, and they wanted to make sure he was okay and help, Johnny Sands with finding his, the TV station manager. And the clues were also good. You had the airlines ticket, you also had the bag of money. So they pointed towards a motive, but I think also, like, they still made it, but that was good because it didn't, like, even though I do like when they help point towards a suspect, I do like that it did help point towards a motive, and it does and if you're paying attention well enough at each suspect, you could probably look at the money, look at the airline's ticket and think, okay, it's probably this suspect because these suspects probably don't need it, probably wouldn't do this or that. So the clues were very good. I very much think they forwarded the mystery and made sense. The motive was great and unique as well. So you had I like the fact that Roger Stevens was going to frame Grisby and take off to South America with stolen money. So he steals money, he's planning to leave to South America and have Grisby take the fall for it. So it's a plain money motive, but I think what makes it good is that he was going to frame someone else. And this wasn't off the cuff. He very much planned it. He saw the threats by Grisby and was like, you know what? I'm going to use that to my advantage. you could see it as him being greedy, and I could see, and honestly, if it wasn't for him framing Grisby, I would see it that way. But honestly, I think it's good because it makes it unique and good because he was trying to frame someone else for his crime of stealing money from his own station and faking his own disappearance. So I felt like there was more aspects to it, and not just him stealing money because he's a greedy fuck. There was a little bit of that, but there were other elements too, so it made it good and made it stand out. And then we have the complete opposite of the last episode, where we have a great number of suspects. There were 3 suspects in this episode, and that was great. We had 1 villain, 3 suspects. Each were very, suspicious and had their own motives. Johnny Sands with his publicity stunts, Grisby threatening the station, and obviously we find out that Stevens was the one behind it, and he did it to steal money from the station so he can leave the South America and frame Grisby for his disappearance and the stolen money. So, but it was good because each suspect was suspicious. We could, and we had the right number of suspects. There was no suspects, unlike the last episode, or one suspect or a no-name suspect. No, they had all 3 suspects here. We knew who Roger Stevens was beforehand, and we knew the other suspects, so it made it good. And the suspect department was great, no faults there. Now on to the villain himself, the Wax Phantom. So the final Scooby Doo Where Are You villain. How does he hold up? Surprisingly, he's really good. I love the Wax Phantom, and I definitely could see why his episode is considered good. And honestly, I would consider him one of the best Scooby Doo Where Are You villains. He was fantastic. He was creepy, he was scary, menacing, threatening, intimidating, all the above, and everything you want from a villain. This guy was fucking scary. Not someone I would want to catch me at all. The size of the Phantom, his fucking face was all disfigured, and he was just creepy as shit. And how he would hide in the shadows and in the dark and creep up on you despite his big appearance. This villain had it all. He was fantastic and really could do no wrong. He was amazing, and there's really not much more to say about him. He was perfect. He was everything I want. A scary Scooby-Doo Where Are You villain that is an imposing threat that could easily hurt the gang, and was also scary in the shadows, hidden in the dark, was very creepy in the dark, and just not someone you would want to mess with. And his moan was fucking creepy too. Like, man, they really went out on a high note with the villain, because the Wax Phantom was a perfect choice to end Scooby-Doo Where Are You. Fantastic villain, really no faults with him. And the same goes for the man outside of the costume, Roger Stevens, the TV station manager. So he was the one behind the costume, and we met him before the Wax Phantom incident, and he seemed to be pretty friendly with the gang. He seemed to, talk nicely with them, and honestly, I like to think that he most likely got them on the dance game show. Maybe him or Johnny Sands or both of them probably helped, pick contestants and picked Fred, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby to be in the contest. I like to think that, that's why they were so friendly, because the gang did seem to be very worried about his safety and seemed to, be friendly with him when they were talking with him. So I like to think that they were somewhat close, and maybe he did help them get on the show, and maybe they had some relationship there. But honestly, he was great. He was a friendly presence, and it was a good, he had a great plan, and it was a nice, twist that he was the Wax Phantom. The guy who disappeared ended up being it. And yeah, you could probably see that from a mile away, but because the other 2 suspects had just as compelling motives as well, it made it not too obvious that Stevens was the villain, and made it so each suspect was suspicious. So I think Stevens was both good in and out of costume. He was a nice, friendly guy outside of costume, seemed to be friendly with the gang, helped them get on the show. But in the Wax Phantom costume, he was scary, threatening, intimidating, wanted the gang off his back, not a nice man, especially when he was caught. He ended up being not so great and was a bit greedy. But he also had other layers to him that made his motive great. And then lastly, we have the atmosphere and setting. So, the atmosphere and setting were great. I really thought the atmosphere was good in this setting. It was suspenseful, it was engaging, and it was really because of the Wax Phantom and his surroundings. In the TV station, his first appearance, he was fucking scary as shit. That moan, that glow, that appearance, that height. Like, he was not someone I wanted to ever see again, and I don't blame the gang and Shaggy and Scooby specifically for running away from this Phantom, because I wouldn't want to be caught by this guy. And the Wax Phantom really helped with the atmosphere, and the Wax Museum was good too, because there was a lot of creepy displays everywhere. That helped set the atmosphere. So the atmosphere was great and was a good Scooby-Doo-esque feeling. I was always on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going to happen to the gang, wonder what was going to happen next. There was never a dull moment in this setting, and the atmosphere was great, and the setting was great too. I liked we had the secondary locations like the TV station and Grisby's house. They were both creepy, had some creepy scenes in their own rights, but the main primary one was the Wax Museum itself, and the Wax Museum was nice and fresh and unique. We had some creepy displays, some cool rooms. The darkness in the museum helped make it fucking creepy as shit. All coupled with a tall, scary, big Wax Phantom running around. Yeah, no thanks. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that Wax Museum. Definitely not somewhere you want to be at night, and the setting was nice and unique, and unlike the last episode where the setting was unique but didn't fit Scooby-Doo or wasn't utilized well enough, this one was unique but was used effectively. It worked for the villain, and the atmosphere, and setting were both well handled because they complemented each other, and it just was everything I wanted out of atmosphere and setting. I was on the edge of my seat with tension and suspense because of the Wax Phantom and because of his surroundings, of the monster displays and the cool stuff like the topsy-turvy room and these this wax table with wax food that Shaggy and Scooby were around with these wax figures. And just wax figures are genuinely creepy as shit, so it's a nice setting for Scooby-Doo to take place in. And they did the best they could with it, and they succeeded. They did a good job, so good job, Hanna-Barbera. You did a great job in this episode. Overall, guys, I would recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. It really is a great finale to Season 2 and the series. So it delivers everything you want in a classic Scooby-Doo episode. Definitely rewatchable. It's that I could see, and if you want to watch this on Halloween, this is a good episode to do so. If you want to relive, the experience that the kids in 1970 got to experience, then this is a good episode to watch on Halloween because it's perfect. It has everything you want, and it's a good classic Scooby-Doo Wario episode, and I think you guys should check it out. It's a good episode, great finale. And it's definitely one of the top episodes that you guys should check out of all the episodes in the series. It's a great finale, and you definitely won't be disappointed. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. You like this episode like me? Do you think it's pretty good, perfect, has no problems with it? You hate this episode? Do you think it's a poor finale to the series? If so, I would be very interested in hearing on why you don't like this episode and don't consider it a good finale. Or are you somewhere in the middle where you just think it's like an average episode that doesn't end on a high note but isn't the worst thing in the world? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby-Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content. Well, we have reached the end of the 2023 summer special, But there still will be more Scooby Doo content for Scooby Month, which is September, which is what we'll be entering. September is Scooby Month, where I dedicate a whole month to just talking about Scooby Doo because it's my favorite, franchise. It's my favorite cartoon, and I think it deserves its own month. And that's also where Scooby Doo started, in September, usually in its shows. So September is a good month to talk about Scooby Doo. So while the summer special is over, you can always go back and watch my previous Scooby Doo Wario reviews from the summer special. And you can also look forward to Scooby Doo gameplay videos and reviews for Scooby Month. And maybe beyond if you guys want more. But as far as other content goes, it might be until the Halloween special in October until you get new content besides Scooby Doo. Maybe November as well, but we'll see. But if you're interested in any of that, subscribe and join the channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, where I have discussions about things that we talk about on both of my channels, and Twitch, where I hope to live stream in the future. So that's it, guys. That's every review of Scooby Doo Where Are You? A really great series, and despite my ratings, and despite me sometimes giving them, ones or twos, threes, fours or fives, no matter what rating I gave Scooby Doo Where Are You episodes, overall, I think the series is a fantastic series. It's classic. It really set the tone for Scooby Doo, and even the bad episodes and the average ones still have some good moments in them. And I think every Scooby Doo Where Are You episode is worth a watch. But if you're just looking for certain ones that you think that if you're looking for recommendations and want to see what I think are the best ones, then you can go back to my reviews and pick out, the ones that, the top ones that I gave. But if you're interested in the whole series, I can understand that as well, as this series really was good. Despite its flaws in some episodes, every episode has its moments, and sometimes can be rewatched here and there, but some episodes are more rewatchable than others. But overall, this was a fantastic series and is a classic one. Go check it out if you haven't. You won't be disappointed. It really set the tone for Scooby-Doo and really is the best thing in Scooby-Doo. The best TV show, best property, best media, period. Nothing beats Scooby-Doo Where Are You? So yeah, that's the end of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? And I will, of course, probably in the future do rankings of episodes, maybe of seasons, and certain stuff in Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Maybe even do topic videos. So while Scooby-Doo Where Are You has ended, that is not the end of Scooby-Doo as a whole, as we do have other shows. And I want to shine a light on them, as I think they deserve it. But what is the next show, you may ask? Well, we have... That's right. The new Scooby-Doo movies, which is the second TV show in the Scooby-Doo franchise. It succeeded Scooby-Doo, and it came out 2 years after this show ended in September of 1972. So... in my next video, I will probably have a Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights Let's Play to start out Scooby Month, but we will begin reviewing the second show in the Scooby-Doo franchise, the new Scooby-Doo movies, with Season 1, Episode 1 of the new Scooby-Doo movies, titled Ghastly Ghost Town, guest starring the Three Stooges. That's right, we're going to have some guest stars join the Scooby Gang in our second series. And this is going to be fun, talking about Scooby and the Gang, meeting some guest stars. Of course, I wasn't around in the 70s, so some of these guest stars will probably be unknowns to me. Some of them will be known. But I'm sure some of you old-timers will probably know most of them. But I'm very excited to tackle the second show in the Scooby-Doo franchise. So... as far as Ghastly Ghost Town is concerned, I have heard that it's not a good start to the new Scooby-Doo movies, and not many people really like it. So, if you want to know my thoughts on the first episode of Season 1 of the new Scooby-Doo movies, join me next time as we will begin the second show of the Scooby-Doo franchise. I can't wait to talk about the new Scooby-Doo movies, and talk about the Three Stooges' first appearance with the gang. Will they be good guest stars? Will they be a poor first choice for guest stars in the new Scooby Doo movies? Well, you'll just have to find out in the next review. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, peace out.
Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby Doo.